Welcome to Wanderlust and Wishes, the podcast where we explore the world one destination at a time.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Krystle.
As travel agents with Fantastical Vacations, we are here to share our passion for travel and help you turn your wanderlust into reality.
From hidden gems to bucket list adventures, join us as we dive into the sights, sounds, and stories of our favorite destinations.
So grab your passport, pack your bags, and let's embark on this journey together. So welcome everyone to the first episode of Wanderlust and Wishes. I am Julie from the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and I've lived in North Carolina for most of my life, or South Carolina. I actually live in South Carolina, but those are just tiny details. No one knows where that is. But I've basically lived in the Carolinas my whole life. So that's kind of my perspective. I'm definitely a Carolina girl and Tar Heels fan, FYI, for any of those Tar Heel fans out there. I have two girls that are 11 and 13. We're actually almost 11 and 13. They both have birthdays at the end of the summer. That was super fun as a pregnancy to be pregnant during the summer, both times. But they are just like the joy of my life. I love them both so much. I'm so excited to share the adventures that we have with them. They are definitely connected to my love for Disney because I love to share the memories and the time and that we spend in the parks. It's just so awesome. My husband, Rob, we've been married for a little bit over 15 years, and he's a pretty good Disney husband. I will say he doesn't complain a whole lot. He doesn't complain a whole lot. Sometimes, for sure, he will get frustrated, and I'm sure that Krystle and I will joke a lot about the fact that we have to convince our husbands, why this, certain trips are necessary and that kind of thing. But just in general, my love of Disney, it comes from being a child. I watched Disney movies my entire childhood. I love all of the classics. Obviously, the 90s. That was when all of the movies that I love from the 90s, Little Mermaid, I think of it as 90s. I know it's not, but all of those fun movies. My first trip was when I was in the 4th grade, and my parents took us to Florida. We stayed off site, but I remember for whatever reason, I have a key memory of being on the monorail because it was so hot and being on the monorail. I had air conditioning, and at that time, I'm going to date myself a little bit, that there was no Animal Kingdom or Hollywood Studios or MGM when we went. So we only had Epcot and Magic Kingdom, and so we rode the monorail a lot because we rode it back and forth. So yeah. And then when my girls were around 3 and 5, I decided I really wanted to bring them up with having that experience. I wanted them to be able to see their favorite princesses and just experience the parks. I had no idea what I was getting into. I did. I had a travel agent that helped me because it is so overwhelming and you don't know what you're doing most of the time, especially your first trip. You don't realize what you're getting into. But that first trip, and it was in 2017, and that kind of spawned multiple trips after that. We wanted to go back and take my parents, and we went with my sister in 2019. And during that trip, we bought into DVC at Riviera. So we've been back multiple times, definitely 10 plus times to Walt Disney World. And it's my happy place. I love it. And that's obviously why also I loved doing the planning. I was always helping others plan. And so that's another, reason how I got into working with Fantastical Vacations. Anything else? Oh, yes. And so Krystle is going to be able to tell us a lot more about Disneyland because that's her park that she grew up with. But I did get to visit Disneyland for spring break of 2023, and I loved it, and I can't wait to go back. Speaking of trips that we're trying to convince our husbands to let us.
It's a never-ending battle. All right. So my name is Krystle. I am located in the Columbus, Ohio area, but like Julie said, I'm actually from out west. I was born and raised in southern Utah, so Disneyland was just a car ride away. It was quick and easy to get to. I don't know how old I was on my first trip. I have pictures. I'm guessing I was like two. I'd have to
Oh,
ask my
wow.
mom. But I was really young and we would go about every year, every other year and do a big extended family trip with my mom's family, grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, all the cousins. I'm sure it was chaos trying to plan that.
I can't imagine.
So it was just so fun. And I know there was another trip. I couldn't have been older than 5. And my brother was sick the entire trip, the poor kid. But I remember him being in his stroller. And I remember going to the electrical night parade and sitting. We were on Main Street. And I know we're kind of like by the arcade at Disneyland on their Main Street. That's kind of by the
Uh-huh.
Emporium. And I remember sitting there with cousins watching that. And I remember getting a Minnie Mouse smashed nickel. And like I'm obsessed with smash pennies now. So that's probably why. And so there's like bits and pieces of these little trips, and I don't know exactly when each one was, but there are just so many great memories with my grandparents and with extended family. And then as we got older, it got harder to probably coordinate everybody's schedule. So then we would just
Yeah.
go like our little family. And there were like surprise Christmas trips. It's like, hey, it's Christmas. We're going next week. In fact, there was one time we went and we stood in line forever between Christmas and New Year's. We were standing in line for Space Mountain, and it was, no lie, probably 2 hours. And we get
Wow.
to the part at Disneyland where you can see into the where you load and unload,
Uh-huh.
and it was Rose Bowl season. And Ohio State was playing Oregon, and the Oregon cheerleaders were on Space Mountain and they just kept letting them go and go and go. They would come back and instead of them getting off, the operator would be like, "Oh yeah, go again." So
And
in
making
that
everybody else wait.
in that moment, I was like, because of that, I don't want them to win the Rose Bowl, and I'm going to cheer for Ohio State. And little did I know, I would end up in Ohio cheering for Ohio
That's
State.
funny.
So we're after that, I got married. And we actually went on our honeymoon to Disneyland, and it was in 2013, and it was right after Cars Land opened. My husband had never been, so that was fun. So I guess I should introduce my children. I have 3 children. I have Calder.
Oh yeah,
He,
those people.
he is 8, Harper is 5, and Reese is 2. And they're very spoiled with how many trips they've been on. Their first trip
My children too.
was March 2020. The end of February, 1st of March, we went to Disneyland with my family. We stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. Galaxy's Edge had just opened. We were doing like the little virtual queue inside the park, and everybody was like silent. And then you'd hear like everybody cheering or everybody angry if they got like a boarding
Yes, I
group.
do. I remember that. We experienced the same thing actually, but we were in Disney World.
And then we got lucky because we all know what happened just days later. And then we did a family trip with my in-laws. That would have been last February. So February of 23. And we had planned for that trip for over a year. And it was to Disney World and just getting like diving into it and figuring out how much things were different
Oh.
compared to Disneyland. Like it was so fun to like get to like hear and like figure all that out. But and then we've been back multiple times in the last year. And so here we are. So I
Yay.
guess that's my little story.
And then we have our agency trip that we're going on in right around a month. So it'll be my first solo trip. And I think it's your first solo trip too, right? Yeah.
Yes, and it's bringing a lot of like it's so different to do it without kids. Like I think back to when my husband and I went on our honeymoon, and it was different then because it's like, well, we don't have like younger kids to deal with, but to do a complete solo trip, this is going to be interesting, but we will report back.
Well, especially I'm probably going to have some like, hopefully it won't last for too long, but I'll probably have some major mom guilt because I'll be there, without the kids. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I've never been there completely by myself, so it's
We will do it together.
yes. I'm I'm going to have major mom guilt for hopefully a hopefully very small amount of time, and then have a lot of fun doing things that I don't get to do whenever I have everybody else with me. So,
It'll be fine.
okay, so we have a game we're going to play.
Yes, I figured that a fun way to get to know us, and Julie has no idea what these questions are. We're gonna do like a little this or that. So, Disneyland or Disney World?
Well, I'm going to say I'm you're going to find out during this that I'm not very good at picking like one or the other thing, just FYI. I'm going to say, well, this, but if I had to choose, I would do Disney World just because I do love I love all the different parks, and I love, Animal Kingdom. And even though Disney World does have sections that are similar to, Hollywood Studios, it's just not exactly the same thing. And that's what I would pick. Yeah, I would pick Disney World for that reason.
And you guys are all gonna know really quickly, Disneyland will forever and always have my heart. Not that Walt Disney World isn't bad, and that little 2-hour flight from Columbus is clutch, but the nostalgia of it, and since
Yeah.
it's always been my home park, it will always and forever be the best.
Yeah, I think nostalgia is always like it just gets you.
Yes.
And I think too, because I'm sure it probably has some to do with yours as well. The fact that that's the first place that I took my girls, that we went to Disney World. And so having those memories of us being there when they were so tiny, that's a lot of nostalgia for me too.
Yes, and I think we'll find that through all of this, nostalgia is going to play a big part. Everybody I talk to, it's like wherever they went to first, that's their place. All right, next question. Skyliner or monorail?
Skyliner. I Some of this is probably too because our resort, our DVC resort is Riviera and it's a Skyliner resort, but I don't know, it's just so fast and it's constantly moving because, even the monorail, like you still have to wait for it for the train to come back around. You don't typically, unless there's someone with like mobility issues where they have to stop the Skyliner to allow them to get on, it's constantly running. So even when there's a line, like it goes so fast because people just are constantly getting on and moving along. So I like the Skyliner better.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. And I just like that there's so many options from value, moderate, and deluxe that there's just so many more places to stay and it's easier to get around. So that's Skyliner for me too.
That's true because with the monorail, it's only those Magic Kingdom resorts that you can, and only those deluxe resorts that you get that. So yeah,
It's
that's a
not
good
as
point.
easily accessible for
Yeah.
my budget.
Right. Right.
All right, next question. Guardians or Tron?
Oh, Guardians. Hands down.
Yes, it's my favorite.
Tron is like, not that it's not fun, so I don't want to discourage people from trying it if you haven't tried it, but it's like 30 seconds long. It's really fast, and I won't lie, that very like first takeoff is just so thrilling and so fun. But Guardians, I literally am like cackling like a kid the entire time I'm on it because you do feel like you're flying through space. You really do.
Okay, so to play off that, the Guardians at California Adventure or Tower of Terror?
I think I'm going to have to go with nostalgia on this one and go with Tower of Terror, even though I love both of them. I they're both so fun. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with nostalgia.
I think I'm going to pick Guardians out there. The music, it just makes it so much more fun. And
That's true. That's true.
little Groot in the first little, I guess it's not a library out there, but whatever, in the office running
Mhm.
around.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was a
Did I
tough
say
one.
Groot? I meant Rocket. The raccoon. Calder
The
is going to be
raccoon.
so mad at me if
Uh-oh.
I. Okay.
And I didn't
Well,
even notice. I didn't even notice the slip up. So that tells you. Yeah.
okay, next. Star Wars or Toy Story?
Oh, the movie or the area?
Whatever one you would like.
Uh, Probably Star Wars. I well, and if we're talking about the lands, I love I love Slinky Dog, but I think the land is too small. I think they should have, I don't know, at least in Disney World. I think they should have done more with it. I think they could have done more with it. And it's like there's not a lot of shade, so it's like hotter than the surface of the sun when you go in there and you're waiting in line. I don't know why. It just feels like so hot.
Mm-hmm.
I always associate it being like so hot whenever I'm waiting in line in Toy Story anywhere, like for anything, like food or in Slinky Dog Dash or anything. But I love Star Wars. I love the Star Wars movies and the series. That's also really nostalgic for me because I grew up with that. My dad's a Star Wars fan, and so I watched the original three, four, five, and six probably ad nauseum growing up and could like speak every single word of the dialogue. So yeah, I would stick with Star Wars.
I am going to pick Toy Story. I've seen the Star Wars movies. I don't know if I just don't pay attention or I just don't understand it.
We can't be friends anymore. I'm sorry.
But I'm also a product of the 90s and Toy Story is my jam and Jessie's my girl.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
So, all right. Epcot going Canada or Mexico? I know this is a hot debate in
Well,
the Disney World.
the thing is, I don't care. I don't. I mean, I think when I go, for the most part, I probably do go left. That's my tendency, but not because I feel that people that go to the right are wrong or and if I'm with somebody, if I'm with a group of people and they want to go to the right, let's do it. It's fine with me. I don't that's just not a hill I'm dying on. Of all the things and all of the Disney debates, it's not I'm not doing it. So,
Well, I'm gonna pick neither because we always stay on the Skyliner, so we always come in France.
oh, that's a good
So
point. Yeah, we do
it
too. For the
it
most
doesn't
part.
ever matter.
For the most
Okay.
part, that's also where we come in.
Yeah. This one's a three. This is three. Happily Ever After, Phantasmic, or Luminous. The three nighttime spectaculars at Walt Disney World. If you could only choose one.
I'm going with Happily Ever After for sure. But I want the original Happily Ever After. If I can put a caveat on that.
I don't know if a real. It's between Happily Ever After or Luminous.
Yes, I would agree. Like for sure between the two. Those
I
are
like that at Epcot you're spread out and you're not like all everybody just packed in front of the castle. But the end of Happily Ever After with Tinkerbell, that's so magical.
it is. I, the other hard part choosing Luminous over Happily Ever After is also like it's so much easier if you're staying at a Skyliner resort, it's really easy if you need to like go home and take a break for a little bit or go back to your resort and take a little break for a little bit, you can just hop back on the Skyliner and come back, maybe like 30 minutes
Yeah.
before and watch it and then go back to your resort after. There's usually a line for everybody leaving on the Skyliner, but it's not that bad to
Yeah,
wait.
that's a good point. Rock and Roller Coaster or Incredicoaster at
Oh, Incredicoaster. There's
100%
absolutely
yes.
zero comparison. No, absolutely Incredicoaster. I mean, not that I
Um,
don't like Rock and Roller Coaster, but that's just not, there's no comparison whatsoever.
I remember riding Incredicoaster before they rethemed it to The Incredibles. So the first time I rode it and I had Dash, let's go. I was like, what in the world is going on?
Mm-hmm.
But it's so fun, like with the water and being outside. And okay, Lion King or Big Blue and Beyond, both shows at Animal Kingdom.
Lion King. I I am also, like, for the most part, a child of the 90s, and Lion King is my favorite. It's probably my favorite of all the movies of the 90s movies. That's my favorite. I have all kinds of Lion King things. I have like shirts and multiple coffee cups, and
That was a good one. I do like Lion King. I do like the original song that they have in the Nemo show. But yes, probably Lion King. Rope drop or park close? Are you a early morning or late night?
I honestly like to do both, but if I have to, I like to do both and take a break in the middle of the day. But if I have to do one or the other, then I'm going to rope drop.
Yes, you can get so much done those first little bit.
It's especially when you have if you're staying on property and you get the extra 30 minutes, it makes a huge difference.
Yes, I agree. So I do like both as well. There are times that we've had to leave early because of tantrums or people are tired. So I do feel like we get more out of rope drop.
Yeah.
Next question, Mickey bar or a Dole Whip?
Dole Whip.
Yes, I agree.
Some of it is, I mean, I love the Mickey bar, but usually it's just a lot of dairy. It's a lot. And I don't ever feel like full and gross after I have a Dole Whip, but I do sometimes when I have a Mickey bar because it's so much and it's chocolate. My Dole Whip is usually like more refreshing. And I love the tropical serenade with the coconut.
Yes,
that's my favorite.
That's my favorite.
I must get that every time I'm in Magic Kingdom. I get the tropical serenade. I'm at Aloha Isle. I can't eat the cake pop because it has gluten in it, but everything else, it's so good. It's just the best.
I agree. I'd probably pick Dole Whip. But our last trip, my little 2-year-old Reese, I have the sweetest video of her Mickey bar because she loved the Mickey bar. So forever and always now when I see a Mickey bar, I'm going to think of that video.
Her sweet face. Oh my gosh, she was so cute. All those little videos that you had of her toddling around. Oh, they're so cute.
She's perfect age. So we can talk about this another time, but take your babies to Disney. It is worth it.
And they're free.
Flight of Passage or Soarin'?
Probably Soarin'.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I like Flight of Passage and I scream like I'm really flying on that, whatever that thing is that you're supposed to be flying on. But I don't know. I like Soarin'. And, when we were there and when we were in Walt Disney World over Christmas, we were able to do the Soarin' over California. And
that was one of my questions is if you pick Soarin', is it World or California? Do you like better?
California. Yeah. And I literally cried. My daughter was like, "Why are you crying? Like, what is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Because it reminds me of our trip to Disneyland."
The smell of the oranges. Oh, it gets me every time. I think I'm going to go with Flight of Passage just because there's nothing else like it anywhere.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But do you have, I have to be careful with motion sickness. And so I usually have my Dramamine and I have my relief band on, but I think the last time I rode it, even with that, I was still just a little like funky. And so I don't know why,
I can see that.
That's another reason.
Because depending on where you're sitting, the screen is curved. So it's not always
and maybe
clear.
that was the issue.
I could see that. Okay, jumping back over to California Adventure or Disneyland. If you could see her face right now.
I love the nostalgia of Disneyland, and that was Walt's park, but I really like Disney's California Adventure. I mean, I think probably our family, like if our family were going to choose, like if I had to have them pick one, it would be Disney California Adventure. They loved Pixar Pier and the Avengers Campus and Cars Land, all of that stuff. And also my husband's favorite ride, period, which is just Bizarro World, because I would never think that this would be his favorite ride, but it's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. All of that stuff was there. And oh yeah, and they also doesn't it also have the Monsters Inc. ride?
Yes.
Is that where that one's in California Adventure, right? Yeah. And that Sully is my youngest daughter, Ella. It's her favorite character. She has 4 different Sully stuffies that she must have and carry with her at all times when we go anywhere. So yeah, first, I think Disney California Adventure.
This is so hard for me. I don't know if I could pick. If I had to, probably California Adventure. I hate that there's not more to do there. They're doing better with Adventures Campus.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to add some more stuff. I think they might be planning to do some more things there.
Well, and I know it just got passed by the city council. Things are popping off out there, and it's going to be like a whole 40-year plan.
Yeah.
And now that the new Pixar Place Hotel that has its own entrance, plus California, the Grand Californian has its own entrance.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So that's really neat. Cars Land, there's nothing like it.
Mm-mm.
So
fun.
Can we go to Disneyland? Can we plan a trip, please?
Yes, yes, I want to. We have to convince the hubbies, like January, February timeframe.
Next question, Epcot or Hollywood Studios?
Wow, that's so hard. Well, the thing is, I've never done a solo trip. And I feel like solo trip wise, I probably would rather like go to Epcot and experience all the things there that I don't ever get to experience with my kids, or not experience as much. But I think based on my current experience, I love walking into Hollywood Studios. I love to hear the music as you're like walking down Sunset. Like it's just, so I think for right now I'm going to do Hollywood Studios.
That's a good one. I think we're going to pick Epcot. Probably because Hollywood Studios is just, there's so much of it like at Disneyland, California Adventure.
Yeah.
That I think our family's favorite is Epcot, even probably over Magic Kingdom most trips. Like we would go to Epcot multiple times. I think I'm going to pick Epcot. It's just so different, and they're adding like Guardians.
That's true. Ugh. Might have to change my mind.
I'm excited to see what they do with Test Track, although Calder's not very happy that they're closing it. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, maybe 3 more. Would you rather see characters walk around, or do you like seeing characters like at their little spot? Or do you even care?
I think as a mom of littles, I think I would rather have them in a spot so that they have the opportunity to like meet them and like get a picture with them.
A little more guaranteed.
Yes, but I think as an adult and just enjoying the parks, I think it's fun to see them just walking around. And I noticed that there was a lot more characters just walking around at Disneyland, it seemed like, than I've seen at Disney World.
Yeah, that was actually a big surprise thing to me. Is that's how you found characters when I was growing up, is you ran into them.
Yeah.
There was no place to go find them. And even when we were there in 2020, like I think Tinkerbell had her little spot, the fairy garden, and then you're always guaranteed to see Mickey and Minnie at their houses in Toontown.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, it was just kind of like a free for all, like wherever you could find them, which I think is pretty magical. Like you see those videos of like the princesses come out and are riding the carousel, or Peter Pan's running around being goofy, or
yeah. And I think too, like, when the characters that they're more like organic and like candid interactions with the guests, because they'll see a little girl or a little boy that's dressed a certain in a costume, or they'll just, whatever reason, they'll just stop and like talk to them and walk along with them, and they don't meet them and they're just kind of standing there and you're getting shuffled through. I don't know if you have this, if it's quite the same experience,
Yes. Yes. We've actually had some really fun experiences in Galaxy's Edge with Star Wars characters walking around.
Yes.
Like the stormtroopers, and Chewie and Rey actually grabbed Calder by the hand and just like walked him through Galaxy's Edge, which was so neat. So yes.
His little face, like best day of his life expression.
Yes. And he had like a stormtrooper on his shirt. And so they were saying, oh, he's in a disguise, when Chewie was like, wait, what are you wearing here? So it was very sweet. Oh, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. Animal Kingdom Lodge or Wilderness Lodge?
Oh, Wilderness Lodge, hands down.
I put that question in there, and then recently you've like said stuff about Wilderness Lodge. I'm like, oh, okay, that's answers that.
I mean, I love both of them, and they both have those phenomenal lobbies. But I don't know. There's just something about Wilderness Lodge. It's just the best. I just absolutely love it. I love the feeling of being. I love the feeling of like you feel like you're still in the Disney magic, but you're like kind of secluded, but you're not. You're like right outside of Magic Kingdom, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you're like secluded in this beautiful lodge out in the middle of nowhere. Yes, I love it.
I do love the price point of Animal Kingdom. I have found that with some deals, it's about the same price as Art of Animation sometimes. But Wilderness Lodge and the mountains, like that's home to me. Okay, last question. Sit down, dining, or quick service?
Sit down. It's really interesting because in general, when having conversation about like quick service dining, we don't do a ton of quick service dining. I don't know why. I mean, we do, but a lot of times it's more like snacks. I like to sit down and just chill for a little bit during the day. And I love doing it even on our rest day, like having those interactions. But I also love character dining, which I know that I'm, in my 40s and I still love it. So it's just one of those things that I love. And it, in my opinion, it makes my trip more magical to have those interactions. When we went on our first trip, we kind of had a sit down dining we had a table service dining every day because so they still had, I know they just brought it back, but they had the dining plan. And we used the dining plan when we went. And so we had those reservations every day. And I loved just being able to sit down and chill. And
it's a good forced break.
Yes. And to get out of the heat or get out of the rain if it's storming, those kinds of things. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to be better at just in general at experiencing more quick service dining options when I'm there in the future.
Well, I can help you with that because I think we are more quick service but we also like to try all sorts of foods. So I feel like it's easier to do that with quick service and order like the Woody's Lunchbox, the tachos, and we just get one and we share it. And then we'll move on to the next quick service and go get a Ronto wrap and share that.
Yeah.
And we're usually so go too. The quick service fits in better than trying to dedicate 2 hours to a meal sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
it's time for us to wrap up. And we hope that you enjoyed the episode, and we will talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in to our first episode of Wanderlust and Wishes.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
And remember, the world is full of wonders waiting to be explored. Until next time, happy travels.
Bye for now.